All right, with all the problems that I've been having lately, I'm checking here, and according to this, my microphone is on, it's recording, and I'm looking at my sound here, and it's plenty loud, so everything should be okay. Good afternoon, Grant. I'm just started the recording right now.
Good afternoon.
Okay. The period, it's going to be a little bit different this period, just for one reason, just so you know. I don't know if any of you made it to the job fair today. It was unbelievably noisy. Let's just put it that way. And I'm literally in a conference room that's right off of where 2/3 of the people were. So it's very hard. I want to show you what I got done. We'll get there later. All right, but we'll talk all about the whole thing in just a bit. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to walk back through Muroc chapter 7 that we went over yesterday and just hit on a few things that we didn't spend much time on yesterday. Then I want to go over again. I'm just going to open up my completed project for this 7.1 Build the Website app and again go over that. Finally, I want you meaning all of you, to go through the end of chapter exercise for chapter 7. We started looking at it yesterday, but I didn't realize until I was writing the test how similar the test is going to be to chapter 7. All right. Now, it says here, I'm still working on the test for chapter 6 to 7, and that's true. And I want to show you what I did today, and I'm going to give everybody this. All right. There are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different models or tables, whatever you want to call them. All right. There is going to be a customer table. There is going to be a category table, which is what was there now. There's going to be a vendor table. That's new. There's going to be a product table, but I changed it a little bit, and I'm going to show you it in a moment. And there's going to be an employee table. All right. So we're going to have 5 tables. In addition, and I've never done this before, I literally spent about 2 hours this morning creating the seed data for this. Now, you might say, big deal. It's almost 1,000 lines long. All right. So just to show you, and again, I'm giving you this. All right, the categories are the same, except I changed them back to the way they were. So they're in alphabetic order. All right. So now we had wheels first, then accessories at the bottom. Now they're just in alphabetic order. All right. Then we've got customers, and we have, I think it's 27 customers. Each customer has, of course, an ID, a first name, a last name, an address, a city, a state, a zip code, and a phone number. All right. And from the way that this data was originally, this data was set up, and it was set up as a database that I used to use. I want to show you. It's a database that I used to use for SQL or MySQL. So the reason I'm telling you that is if we look at the schema, that's what the schema looked like. I had to go and convert all the schema over. That's fine. I had no problem doing that. All right. So I did that. But then as an example for the products table, this is what it looked like. Each product had a name, etc. I removed the description short and the description long, and I changed it. I put in a thing that just says description. And then what I did, over time, you've all looked at the lipsum.org type of stuff. There's a bicycle lipsum. So I use that. So at least the stuff hopefully would seem a little bit like the way it's supposed to be, for lack of better words. All right. But again, when you look at this, oops, that ain't it. And you bring up the context file, hopefully, again, like I said, 6 categories, 27 customers, or 26, I don't remember. All right. 8 employees. Employees, just like customers, have an ID, a first name, a last name, an address, a city, a state, a zip code, and a phone number. All right. Then we've got our products. Now, what we're going to end up doing, so I don't know why there's spaces in there, but there is one here. But when you start looking now, each product has an ID, it has a name, it has a fairly long description. All right, it has an image. I'm giving you all the image files. It has a price, it has a quantity, and it has a category ID. There are now 40 items or 40 products that we have. Then we've got vendors, and just like customers, just like employees, vendors have just a name, not a first name and a last name, but they have a name, they have an address, a city, a state, a zip code, a phone number, and they have an email address. So you're going to get this, and as you know, I've finished this part of it, and now I'm writing up the test. So I will have the test ready for you by tomorrow. All right. I will email it out to you tomorrow morning. I will go over the test instructions tomorrow from 12:05 till 12:20, or if it takes a little longer until then. You will have the rest of the period on Friday and all period on Monday to work on it. Now, originally you were going to have today, tomorrow, and Monday. All right, I'm only going to give you 2 days, but I'm not going to make it due until Wednesday of next week. Trying to be as fair as I can. All right, so you will have literally between the 2 class periods, you will have approximately 7 hours, all right, on Friday and on Monday to work on it. All right. I will tell you that tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be gone from about 3 until 5. They're doing the follow up for my nasal surgery, and that was the latest that the guy could make the appointment. So I'm going to have to leave at 3 because it's a half an hour from my house, and my appointment's at 3:30. All right. It usually takes about a half an hour, so I'll be home sometime around 4:30. But if you have questions, I'll just hit on those when I get back then. So you will get these files. All right. I just want to make sure that they are correct. But what I did was I removed my bike shop database. Then I went back and I recreated the bike shop database. You can either do that or Collier's Bike Shop 2. I don't care what you do. All right. But if you look now, for example, under products, and we view the data, now you will notice it looks different than it did before. Each product has a name, each product has a description, and each product will have an image associated with it. I will give you the images for each product as well. All right. Now that was a little long, but hopefully now talking about that and then going into the chapter and the end of chapter stuff, it'll make sense what you are supposed to be doing. All right. So let me jump back into the book here. And I'm going to jump back all the way to page 245. All right. This is how to work with razor layouts. Okay. And they talk about how to create and how to prepare layouts. Is this that big a thing? No, but one thing I wanted to show you, what they mentioned in here, the setup for this is a little different than what I asked you to do. What do I mean? If you remember yesterday, when we were going through this example, let me find it. There it is. That chapters, no, not the chapter 7 guitar, that my website thing. When we went through this yesterday, all right, hopefully you remember we added an area that we called help. All right, then we went in and in the views, we added our own view imports, view start, etc. Well, in the book, what they say is when you do it this way, what you really should do, for example, here, where we've got our layout file. What I did yesterday was I went over here, I right mouse clicked, and I chose, what did we do? Well, when it was open, let me go through it with this being open like this. All right. So what we did yesterday inside of our areas here. So inside of our areas, okay? Let me close all this other stuff so it doesn't get too confusing. So inside of help, what the author says is, for example, if I wanted under views here, if I wanted to add a view imports or a view starts, pretend for a second I didn't have them. I went like this. I went add and I went view, all right, like this, all right? But the author says there's other ways that you can do it as well. So you can come in here and choose, what was it? Add and trying to remember even what it was. You get the same result. All right, it might have been razor component. Yeah, razor component. And then in here. But you see the difference is now it even says we've been using razor view empty, but they have in here the other types of razor files. So if I look in here and I type in layout, all right, see there's a razor layout. All right, is there any advantage of doing it like that? I don't think so. All right. But it's just that there's another way to do it. And I wanted to mention it because in the book, they do it a different way than the way that I did it. All right. And like I said, I'm just trying to be consistent here. All right. Sometimes I just start to do things my own way and I can't even give you really a reason. Just I did it that way. It worked. So I keep doing it that way. All right. So whether that's a really good explanation or not. So this is what they mention on page 245. This is what the author had said. All right, you do an add new item, and then you can go to ASP core web category, and then you can choose those. I don't see any difference from what the author showed you there and what I showed you. I mean, the final product is going to be the same, but it's another way that you can do it. All right. Then I wanted to jump ahead a little bit. And again, I want to make sure that people understand with this chart here on page 247, a couple things about this. All right. The ASP dash controller, typically the only time you have to set that is if you are in one, all right, if you are in one controller or one view, etc., and you want to jump or do something with another one. By default, if I'm in product right here, if I'm there, the system knows that the controller is product. You can still put it in. It doesn't hurt a bit. It doesn't help a bit. All right, so it's your call. The action, again, is the method that you are basically correlating or setting up with whatever it is you're doing. And the route ID, for lack of better words, is what you're passing in. And what I mean by that is in this example right here, it expects that the ID is a string. All right. And that's why we've got guitars here. Now, what we've also seen in here a lot has been something like product ID or something else ID. And in those cases, then the ID is an integer value. All right. But in this example that they're showing here with their guitar stuff, they were using, they had for, I think the product ID was a string. All right. And it was set up with either guitars or maybe it was the categories. It doesn't really matter, but I think it was the products, the guitars and the basses and the drums. All right. Next, on page 249, it's important that by now This is more of the same. So again, notice in here, what do we have? Controller product, ASP action list product, or list rather, view all products. Typically, you're going to either call something like that list. Some people call it details, but most don't, because most people in here equate details with you giving a detailed list of a record. All right, so you're putting in all the details. So list is a very common name. Now, the only reason I'm saying this is when you look here, all right, here we've got controller product list, view all products. That's what should be coming up then, all right, basically in our home, okay? But notice we've also got here another one that says guitars, all right? What that is doing, since it is using list, all right, this is defaulting here, for lack of better words, to all. This, we put a route ID in, so this should show us all the instruments that we have in the guitar shop. This should show us only the guitars that we have in the guitar shop. And remember, there are guitars, there are bass guitars, and there are drums. And the last example here, we're putting in a specific guitar. So rather than list, we're using details. So as it says, that should allow you to view that detail. All right, or that particular guitar. And they've got a couple of examples of it in here. All right, next. I went back and reread this last night and thought, well, some of it we may have gone over too quickly. All right. Again, if you look at the example that's in here, it says a method that a controller can use to pass a model to a view. This is very similar to what we have been working on. So what are we doing right here? It's important that you understand what's going on in this code, in the code right here. So we're creating a new variable of type product called product. We are telling it to iterate through the list of products. And if you find an ID in the database that's equal to the one that you passed in, you want to bring it up on the screen and also bring up the associated category. All right, and we've got first or default. So first means you found it, default means you didn't. Since you didn't, it's a new product. All right, and this again is the kind of thing we've talked about before. Now, the reason that that's important is product will hold something. It'll either hold that information or the fact that it's a new product. So we now have some information that we can come in and pass into our view. All right. And then there's another one in here with the add. Now, again, we've been using add edit here, but the idea is the same. All right. All right. In here, you still may have problems understanding this. Maybe I made it worse. I would never try to, but using at model with a small m, at model with a large M. All right. The small m basically is going to be used up at the top, like they show you right here, at model product. The large M is going to be used in two ways. All right, in the using statement, but notice there's no at in front of it. But if you set it up like this, okay, then in here, what it's saying is this is working with the thing kind of as a whole, and this allows you to work with the individual components or parts of a product. So each product there has an ID, it has a name, it has a category, and it has a price. All right. Again, looking at this, we have done some of this, but again, the book is doing their best here to actually go in and explain stuff that previously, all right, we just did, and we never had much of an explanation. So again, they are creating a select list here, all right, in here. So a new select list that's going to grab every category that we have, all right? It's going to be based off of the ID, but what we're going to see is the name. What that gives you in this example, all right, in the example with the guitar thing, is again the three different types of musical instruments that we have in the guitar store, right? And there they are. Now, we've also been putting in, typically when we do it, we've been putting in an extra value and it's not shown here. For instance, we could have said there, choose a category, something like that. All right. Again, a couple things that are in here. Notice that what they're doing here in the first line that's in mustard yellow, it says list products equal null. Who cares? Well, what they're doing right there is they're creating an empty list. All right. So that you know that products, when you use it down here or here, it is a list of products. So this is pretty simple. If the ID is equal to all, you want to list everything. Otherwise, you want to just list the one product that you're looking for. So you'll have to map the ID that you pass in as a string, all right, with whatever is in the database. All right. The more I work with this, and you may agree with me here or you may disagree, this actually does. The software makes a lot of sense. But the problem is there are a lot of components and parts to it. And it seems like every time we get to the point where, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense now. Then we just add something else onto it. And then there's something else you have to learn. Well, that is the way it is. All right. So with that said, then, just jumping on, all right, this is the kind of thing that they make at the end of the chapter. All right. They actually, this is prettied up a little bit that's in here. They've got all at the top and they use one of the list group items. All right. And then they've got it, guitars, then basses, then drums like this. This again is a user view. This is what the user should see. All right. This is a list of all the guitars. If you click on the view, all right, and I don't even know if it shows it in here, but you should see the information about that guitar. All right. And what information? Whatever you decide to provide. Again, this would be where you could show a picture of it, the price of it, the category of it, and something else if you wanted to. All right. Now, the update that's on here, I'm not even sure right now what you'd be using that for. Because again, if this is a user view, then really about all you should be able to do with update is to, let's say you bought two of them and you decide you only want one. You should be able to change it. All right. But as an end user, you should not have the ability to go in and make updates. All right. Now, with what they're doing in the chapter here, and with what we're doing so far, okay, we will add another thing that we're going to call admin. But until we actually get into the chapter on authorization and authentication, all right, anybody can be an admin. Now, that's not the way it's going to actually be, But what we are doing in here, what we will be doing on our test is we will be creating an area that we will call admin. That's what I'm going to want you to set up on the test. All right. Now I've written part of it and I'm going to go home tonight and I'm going to write the rest. I would not give you a test that I have not written first. That wouldn't be fair to you because that would mean I could possibly ask you something that wouldn't even be possible. And I don't want to do that. All right. As we keep going on then, how to work with laser layouts. And this is about the last 15 or so pages. And we went over this quickly yesterday. In my opinion, possibly too quickly yesterday. All right. So when you look in here, it says the views shared underscore main layout dot CSHTML file. Well, when you look at this, there's not a lot in here that we really haven't gone over before. In other words, you can see in this head up there, we've got a title. Then we've got our body section, and our body section has a header, and that header basically is going to be something like a list group item, or it's going to be a list of URLs like it is here, or whatever. All right. And then you're going to have your main, and your main is going to be your render body. And then you're going to have your footer and whatever you want to put in there. All right. So we've talked about this before. All right. Look what they're doing here. They are creating a file that's called main layout. All right. And what they're basically saying here is any layout that's based off of main layout will have these components. So it'll have a common look and feel. So notice it says if you want to set the default layout, all right, that's what we've been doing. But notice in here, they're changing it. So it says the code for a home index that explicitly specifies a layout. This is not that important right now, but and again, as you get into having different areas, etc., and as your applications get more and more complex, this then becomes more and more important. So as it says here, a project can have multiple razor layouts. So different views can use different layouts. All right. The positive of that is what they just said. You can have multiple layouts so that every time you bring up a different page, you can have a different layout associated with it. All right. Well, that's okay as long as you keep pretty much a common look and feel between those. All right. Because, that's usually what you're shooting for in a website is that common look and feel. All right. Then they mentioned, we talked a little bit about this yesterday about talking about duplicate code and how you can go and nest things. All right. So what they have in here is they're saying, hey, you want to do this basically all the time, always. Okay. So what we're saying in here is in the main layout file, all right, you bring in the regular layout and then you add this to it. All right. So basically, again, every page that is going to utilize this underscore main layout will look the same. And then they actually use it in here. Now, when you use it, that doesn't mean you can't override some of the stuff that's in there or add to it. You still can. All right. Like I said, I'm trying to hit the stuff that we didn't spend much time on yesterday. This is another thing that we didn't spend much time on. This view context property. All right, you may or may not have felt actually a little bit overwhelmed when we went into some of the stuff that was in that exercise yesterday. All right. As it says, the view context property is available to all of your views and layouts. The idea is it holds information and you can query it, which is basically what we did in our program. All right. So as it says in the example they're going to show, if the current controller is the product controller and the current action is list, okay, it sets the active attribute to the product list or to the products link. And again, this is what we were talking about. It doesn't seem like much, all right, but it's just using some colorization in here. All right, that's it. So as they say, the layout can use the view context property basically to query or get data about the route. All right, then it can use it for various reasons. All right, we haven't done really much of anything with sections. All right, and as it says, there's a render section that's like render body. Now, again, this could at least conceivably make sense if inside of the render body, you were going to put some like code. You could put that like code into a section and then bring it in for your render body. So they sort of show an example here. All right. And the example that they're giving is they're saying here, all the scripts that you would typically put in here, all right, instead of having to put them in every single time and keep repeating everything, you could put it in as a render section. All right. So what they have here, this is now taking the place of these validate procedures. Okay. And again, I'll let you read that, but the point is, I mentioned this yesterday that at least some of the stuff that was talked about yesterday, at least some of it, all right, was either shortcuts or the use of almost aliases for different things. To me, that was what a lot of this particular chapter was about. That and hopefully at least trying to clarify some of the things that we had been doing all semester, but why are we doing those type of an idea? All right. So again, then they came in here with this guitar shop website. And if you look at it right here, this is pretty much what I'm going to ask you to do for your test, all right, tomorrow. In other words, if you look right here, this is the product list. So what you will have in your product list, just like this, you'll have an all, and it'll show all 40 products. Then you'll have accessories, and it'll show however many accessories we have. Then you'll have clothing and it'll show all the clothing, etc. So since we have 6 different categories, we will have 7 links right here. All and then the 6. And each time you change it, of course, this should change. And associated with each one of these will be something like this, where you'll have a name and a price. And if you click the view details button, it will actually show you some of the details. All right. Now, if you click the add to cart button, and I mentioned this to you yesterday, it's not real. In other words, you actually can add to the cart from right here, or you can click view details and you can add to the cart from there. There should be an add to cart button or link or something. In either way, all it's going to do is give you a message on the screen. And that message is going to say, the name of the product added to cart. And that's it. All right. So this is your details page. Okay. They've used tables or zebra striping on the table. They've got the product name, product details. Now, what I tried to do with the images was scale them and make them basically all the same size. Ours might not look quite as pretty as this, but this is the kind of thing I'll want you to do. Now, we don't have a discount percent. We don't have a price. So when I go home tonight and finish writing this test, I'll figure out what I'd like you to put in here. All right. So now notice we're on where? We're on an admin page. So you are going to have in your admin pages, notice how this changes. Previously, this said admin. Now, when you click it, it goes back to view site, which is going to send you back to home. All right. But what you will have on here is, yeah, you will still have a home, but you'll have, you can do it alphabetically or whatever way you want, but probably products, categories, and you'll also have in here employees, vendors, and customers. And this would allow you to go in and update or delete any of those things. All right. And like I said, I'll be working on this tonight. So Evan had actually started this last semester, and I looked at his screenshots, and some of his screenshots are actually incorrect. So I wanted to go and clean it up and then be able to show it to you tomorrow. All right. And here would be an update. Notice in the update, all right, the category is a drop-down list. Well, we've already talked about that. All right. Now, is it possible that I got to go back in myself and take category under product? I don't know if I set it to validate never or not. Knowing me, I probably forgot to do that. Let's see. So if I go into product and I look, oh, what do you know? It is in there. All right. And I put a slug in there too, just again, so that we can, what the slug is for, so we can have more friendly looking URLs. All right. And there's the add product. And again, we've got the drop down here. All right. Kind of nice, I think, right in here to initialize. And that's why I initialized the price like they did here to 0.00. And I've also got a quantity in there that I initialized to 0. And the delete page, which doesn't look much different from what we've been doing. What I am going to ask, all right, I'm going to show you some screenshots and the like, but eventually we're going to build a project that's going to be similar to this, but you're going to get very general type of directions. And the reason you are is ideally everyone in the class is going to create a project that will look a little different. All right. And that's what we want. All right. So that was it. So let's take a couple minutes here first, and let's look at what's at the end of this. Now, just so you know, when I looked at it yesterday, I'm asking you to do this. This has got 31 different things in it. It says to do a couple things, then run it, then do a few more, then run it, etc. All right. Now, you can say, well, why should we do this? We've already got the solutions. I don't think the solutions are complete that you're given. So I want you to at least try this. All right. And again, notice what it is. It's the Chapter 7 Guitar Shop website. You may want to keep this open, either the completed one or the non-completed one, when you are working on your test to see how you basically, oh, that's how they did that type of an idea. Okay. So again, if I bring this up, I know we talked about this yesterday, but because I'm trying to be complete here, I'm going to go out onto the C drive. And again, you've got this. This is student download. All right. Exercise solutions, chapter 7, guitar shop. All right. And I'm going to bring that up. It seems to work, but some of the stuff when I was looking at it last night, I don't think it's complete. But if we look at it here, all right, this is the kind of thing you're going to have. So again, you're going to have, yeah, probably an about, and notice when we highlight them, what's happening. All right, that's what we'll want to have happen. All right, home brings you here or clicking here. Products is going to bring up our products. About, what I'd like you to do eventually, right now, if you just put in, some garbage, you can put it in a jumbotron. You don't have to, etc. But eventually, for this bike shop, I'd probably on the about us. All right, maybe in the homepage. All right, maybe in addition to this, you want a picture over here, some kind of an image, or maybe in here you want an image or both. All right, but you are going to have something that's going to be similar to this. And again, when you choose all, there's, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They've got 10 instruments. Notice when I go to guitars, it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When I go to basses, it's 2. When I go to drums, it's 2. When I go to strings, all right, now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in other words, strings in this case are guitars and basses. All right. And again, I'm not worried about that one, but you will have in here again, if I go back in here, remember that what we have, open this up and show you. All right, again, you're going to get this file. But if I open up category.cs, all right, in fact, I don't want that one. I want the context file. All right, so for categories, move that up. We have 6. So you will have an all, and then you'll have accessories, then you'll have bikes, then you'll have clothing, then you'll have components, then you'll have car racks, then you'll have wheels. Some of these have, out of these 40, have 1, 2, or 3 things. All right. The accessories probably they have about the most because it's kind of a catch-all or a miscellaneous type of thing. But you will be expected when you do your test, all right, again, to create something that looks like this. And then when you click view details, I'll figure out what I want you to put in there. All right, at a minimum, yes, you will have to add the image. You have all 40 images, all right, or you will. I will send you an email. That email will have all 40 images. It will also have your models, and it'll have your context file. All right, so it's giving you a big start. Again, we're not offering a discount, so this stuff in here is moot for us. And as I told you before, if you click add to cart, that's all it does. All right, we are eventually going to try to add a cart onto this. And if I go back to products and I say, notice I can add it to cart from right here as well. And it does the same thing. All right, so this is what you are asked to go through in this exercise, is basically to create this. So what they ask you to do, all right, is this is, pretty much, at least, you pretty much have the completed one in there. All right. And if you go back and instead of being in solutions, you go into starts, all right, and you bring up the guitar shop for chapter 7. All right, you'll notice that it's incomplete. All right. Some of it works, some of it's there, but not everything. This is what you're asked to do in the exercise. So if I run this, all right. And I don't know if that's it or not, so let me close it and run it again. I think that is it though. There we go. Okay, so view our products. All right. View details. So some of it's done already, it looks like. I don't know how much is done and how much is not done. I just want you, I think if you do this and you set this up and you go through the stuff that's in here, then once we get to the point where, I don't know what that is, but once we get to the point where you're doing it on your test, it should just all hopefully fall into place and make sense. All right, at least like I said, that's my hope. All right, so we'll take a break in just a moment, but before we do, again, I want to come back. I'm going to close everything that I've got open here. And like I said, you're going to get all this. Maybe that's giving you too much. I don't know. But as you can see, the context file is 44K. So it had a lot in it. As I mentioned to you, it's about 970 lines or something like that. That was my morning today. All right, and I had to get up every once in a while and go because I was supposed to talk to the people at the job fair. So I hit on a few of them as well. Okay, so the other one that we're talking about then is this My Website. All right, we're going to go over it because we did it yesterday, but we did it kind of quickly. So we're going to go over here and we're going to go through this. My hope is that by now, even though we've only done it once, if you watched me build that area, that help area yesterday, that you could do this. You will be asked to do this on your test, but instead of that area being called help, yours will be called admin. All right. And it'll be set up similarly. We won't have a tutorial controller. All right. But it'll be set up in a similar type of manner. All right. So we did this yesterday. Again, if I do bring this up, do I have it? Yep, I've got it right here. And I think I even showed you this yesterday, but just on the off chance that I did not. All right. I'm going to open up a few things here. All right. So if you take a look right now at this and I make it smaller, all right, there's our areas, there's our help, there's our controllers with a home controller and a tutorial controller. We're not using the data, since it is an empty folder, we could get rid of it. It's not hurting anything or helping for that matter. Same with models. All right. And then we go to views, and under views, we've got a home folder, we've got a shared folder, we've got a tutorial folder. Under the home folder, we've got our index.cshtml. Under our shared folder, we've got a help layout.cshtml. And again, you will have an underscore admin layout.cshtml in yours. All right. And under tutorials here, they've got 1, 2, and 3. In addition, we have our view imports and we have our view start. That's everything they show here. All right. Also, or for the rest of it here, all right, then we've got, this is just the regular stuff we always have, right? So under controllers, we've got a home controller. All right. Under models, we're not doing anything there. So there's just that default error model. You can see what's there under home and what's there under shared. All right. And again, I realize, yes, we went over this yesterday. I do. I get it. But There's going over it, and there's going over it where you say, yeah, I get everything that we did. All right. And that's going to be my hope. All right. Now, I've mentioned this kind of thing to you before, but I've already gone in here and I didn't do it on this project, but I've gone in and said, you know what, in models here, we're not using this. I'm just going to get rid of it. And then it seems to screw things up. So I'm just leaving it in there. And I've also in the past, removed these partial files that I'm not using. So this one is validation scripts partial. All right. And this one is that error thing that's in there, but I'm just going to leave them in. All right. So we're going to take a break in just a moment. And once we take a break, when I get done, we're going to again walk through. I'm not going to recode, but we're going to walk through the steps that are given in here. And hopefully I can give a little bit more of an explanation, at least over some of the stuff, as opposed to what we did yesterday. Okay, it is 12:56. Let's please come back at 1:10, and we very well could be done today between 1:30 and 2 o'clock. All right, so I will see you at 1:10. All right, it's 1:10, so let's continue on. What I'm going to do as soon as I get done lecturing today is I'm going to myself go over exercise 7-1. And as I mentioned, I'm going to kind of use that as a template as I write the test. Now, it's not the same thing, of course, but as I mentioned previously, if you can finish that exercise and understand what's going on in it, you should be able to do well on the test. At least, again, that's my hope. All right, so jumping into this, where are we? There we are. Okay, so as it says, when we run this, so we just looked at the structure. And what do we have here? Well, notice we've got here my website and the home and the about and the contact that are here. Well, there's the contact. The home is just like, hello type of thing. And the about, same kind of thing. They're just garbagey types of things. And when you go to the help, it is supposed to bring up this page by default. All right, tutorial page 1, and it's got a next because there's no previous. If you click next, you go to page 2. Now you do have a previous and you have a next. Finally, if you go to page 3, you have a previous, but you have no next. All right. The contact view, as we mentioned, not much to this. All right. But hopefully, at least when you're on these, as shown, it will highlight whatever whatever your active form or whatever it is you're working with is. So again, here's our specs. Create an app with controllers and views shown. Review chapter 6 for setting up the routing for an area. Well, that was going into the program.cs file. We talked about this before. I did this yesterday, and it appears at least as though it worked just fine. So in the program.cs, down at the bottom, I added this. And as we talked about, all right, you have, because that is more specific in nature than our default route, it has to go above the default route. And also in the pattern, all right, in the pattern there, we've got an area exists that's in there. All right. Okay, so that's the first thing. It says the app doesn't need model classes, so you don't need to create a models folder. Well, so again, if we did want to, I believe it wouldn't hurt anything to remove the models folder that's in here. But again, occasionally when I've done that, I've had problems with this error view model. So I'm just going to leave it. All right. Close that. I don't need that anymore. Let's close this too. And that. All right, use a razor layout to store the HTML head and body elements. Use a razor view start file to apply this layout to the views in the app, and a razor view imports file to add the using statements. All right. Close the bike shop for now. try to. All right. So when we look in here and we look at what we have, well, there's two things to consider. The first is inside of our areas. So let me close this and open up the areas, because the areas have their own help layout file. All right. And we'll go over that in just a bit. All right. But it's got, other than what's up here, there's not really a whole heck of a lot that's new. All right. Except what's it showing here? Well, basically, this is what it's doing as far as showing you what's active, for lack of better words. All right. And in here, we also have a view imports file. The only thing that's different in here is the using statement, which I don't think we have in the other one, but then we're adding our tag helpers, and the view start, because we want to use our help layout when we're in here, as opposed to using our layout. All right. And then if we look at what we have in here, as far as what we normally have, quote, normally, and we again go in here to layouts, not a lot in here that's new, except again, the index, the about, and the contact. All right. So we can tell just exactly what's what type of thing. All right. And in our imports, I guess we did have the using my website, and we need the models. I don't know why we need this. It's blackened, so it's saying that it's using it, but there's nothing in the models, so I don't know why it's there. And our view start, which now says use layout. All right, let's first go back into our areas here, and let's look at this. Well, I mean, this isn't anything, okay? In fact, real quickly, let's just look at the non help layout pages. So this is our welcome to the help page, not really anything in there. And these are just our page 1, our page 2, and our page 3. And in here, all right, we've got the route ID being page 2. So it's a string, and that's where we're going when we click the next button. Here, again, same kind of thing. Here's where we're going if we click the previous. Here's where we're going if we click the next. And finally, here's where we're going if we click the previous. So nothing in there should be any kind of a surprise. So let's look at this, because our book doesn't really go over this, I didn't think at least, in much detail. All right. And I looked online and I didn't like a lot of the stuff that I saw on this. But again, we're using view context to try to figure out what our active controller is. That's what this is doing right here. It brings it back in a format that's not a string. So we go and we use the toString on it. All right. And then what we're saying here is whatever controller was returned, all right, make that the active one. Okay. Why? Because then again, down in here, active home and active tutorial. So when we run this, and we come in and click help, all right, it's which one's active. All right. And technically, it looks like the coloring is the one that's not active, because that's home and that's tutorial. But if you look on here, we do have it where it's lit up and it's showing us. I don't know why that right in there isn't working. We'll have to look at that, but that's no big thing. But you can see when you highlight a different one, it now becomes white like it would normally, but you can also iterate over the other ones and get them to light up a little bit at least, so to speak. So that's the home, that's the about, and that's what's in there for the contact. Now, for that contact, they actually ask you rather to set this up if you remember, as a dictionary. The only reason I bring that up is they also ask you in the exercise at the end of the chapter to do a very similar thing. All right. So we come in here then and look at this. This says section header. All right. So we are creating a section we're calling header. All right. Is that a big thing? No. And you'll notice on the default is going to be help page. However, if we go over here, all right, and so where are we? We're in our help layout. So if I go over here in our views under area, all right, and for example, I go over to here, all right, there's nothing we have to do. All right, it's already handled everything in our um, layout file. All right, this help page. That's what comes up when we go there. Boom. As soon as we go there, that's what comes up. All right. And when you look there, that active nav, again, that's going to make it white or appear white when we do that, when we highlight it or when it is active. All right. So for home, pretty obvious. All right. Home controller, the action is index and it's in the help area. All right, same thing for tutorial, except again, the controller is tutorial. And here we have route ID, which says we want to start at page 1. All right. So pretty much, I think I've gone over everything that's in here. I thought this was not a great exercise. It was good as far as showing you how to set this stuff up, but it wasn't good in that there's no model in here. So technically, in my opinion, at least, there's no logic. All right. That's why I made the decision that I wanted you to go back and look at this thing with a guitar shop. All right. So like I said, this is what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run through the steps in this guitar shop website. So the first thing I'm going to do, there's like 31 steps or something like that in here. 25. I thought there's another page. Yeah, 31. I'm going to read all 31 steps. All right. Then I'm going to try to go through them. Right. If I find something that looks a little hinky or something I don't think people are going to be able to do themselves, then of course I'd be happy to share that with you. All right. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I'll take a look at it anyway. So tomorrow I'm hoping by 7 o'clock. All right. I plan on working on this test tonight, putting screenshots and the like in there like we did on the last one. What you will want to do, in my opinion, what you will want to do is to create a whole new project because we're making so many changes. I wouldn't recommend creating an area and then moving stuff that's in a non-area to an area, etc. I'd leave your hot two alone, basically. All right. And like I said, I will give you the models, I will give you the context. So pretty much everything you'll need in the models part of this will be done for you. You will be responsible for creating the admin area, and you will be responsible for creating the what we'll call it our UI or the user's view as well. And in both cases, I plan on giving you some screenshots so you know pretty much what it is I'm looking for. All right. Now, the other thing too is if we look in here, this is what I wanted to mention. So if we look at the example that they have in here, not this one we just did, but if we look at the guitar example that's in here, all right, I don't know if this is the start one or not. I don't remember. Yeah, it says start. That's fine. All right, and we run this. I mean, you've already seen some of this. So if you are products, I'll go over to Washburn D10S and view the details, and you can see we get a picture. Who cares? You should, because what I want you to understand on that is static stuff. So in www root, they have added a folder called images, and in that folder are all of your images. All right. What I have for you and what I will give you then tomorrow in here, there isn't, well, I didn't put it in yet. Thought I did. Let's see, someplace in here. I know it's in here. All right. There is an images folder. I'll copy it here. Now that's going to probably make the size of this pretty big. So let's see how big this is right now. Oh, it's not bad. Okay. But if you look in here under the images now, these are the images, the 40 things that we sell at the store. Now, some of them are good pictures. Some of them, I pulled all this off the internet. All right. So you can see as we work our way through here. Some of them have better quality than others, etc. None of them are terrible. All right. And that was all 40 of them. So you're going to get these. All right. And again, the idea will be very similar to what is shown then in here and what we just looked at in that project. All right. All right. So Grant, unless you have any questions, hopefully you know what I want you to do. And like I said, tomorrow will be, I'll explain, I'll go over the steps for the test, go over the screenshots, etc. You'll have the rest of the period then tomorrow and all period Monday to work on it. I will be there from 12 till 3 tomorrow. And then after 4:30, I'll be around most of the weekend and I'll be around all day on Monday. Okay. So like I said, unless you have questions, that's all I had for today, and we'll just pick it up then tomorrow at 12:05.
I think I'm good. Thank you.
All right. See you then.
See you then.